This week on Healthy Living, a look at the emotions that drive sports fans and their impact. An expert discusses why some soccer fans should be mindful of their emotions during competitions. Uganda receives doses of Ebola vaccine candidates for clinical trials. Plus, some people in Zimbabwe are determined to stay in shape regardless of the unusual setting. We'll have these stories and more in this edition of Healthy Living. Hello and welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lina Ahmoudou. Euphoria, stress, anxiety, grief. Sports fans often experience these emotions and everything in between. A fan's emotional response to a game or affective response include the feeling of pride and satisfaction when winning, or the feeling of disappointment when losing. Football has been described as an emotional roller coaster. Experts say team losses during soccer games have been linked to a high rate of attempted suicides and psychological distress, among other things. According to research, acute cardiovascular events such as heart attacks and cardiac arrhythmia among hospitalized patients increase due to the stress that comes with watching a soccer match. Since November 20th, the Qatar 2022 World Cup is in full swing, a moment of joy and often of sadness. This emotionally charged competition can also have an impact on the health of supporters. Our correspondent in Bamako, Mohamed Danyoko, takes us into the often hectic world of supporters.
It was a celebration like no other for an entire continent, with the historic qualification in the semi-finals of Morocco to the World Cup, the first for an African country. Mahmoud, a Moroccan who lives in Mali, can't stand still. He releases his stress on the container stuck in his hands. At the final whistle, he admits he was on the verge of a breakdown.
Wallahi, I was so stressed. My body was shaking. It's amazing.
This day stressful of the quarterfinal was preceded by another full of surprises, which saw the elimination of Brazil by Croatia, and Argentina almost lost the game to the Netherlands.
A
World Cup with so many surprises. Yesterday, I would say that my heart was beating out of my chest when two big teams, Brazil and Argentina, were playing in the quarterfinals, and Brazil came out. All eyes were on Argentina. And at the time of the penalty shootout, it was so intense.
Dr. Modibo Dombia, a cardiovascular thoracic surgeon, says the fans should be level-headed to avoid some health crisis.
Garder quand même l'air calme, quel que soit le score.
Keeping calm regardless of the score and the event that occur is key. That's because these are people who have existing heart conditions. So when there is an unfortunate event, they will stress, and the stress will release certain hormones. These hormones will create specific plaques in the vessels, which can go and clog the coronary arteries responsible for heart attacks.
A theory supported by Abdul Karim Sanogo, a fervent supporter of Paris Saint-Germain.
Being passionate is good, but I think you have to have a limit, especially when you know you have a condition. We must in fact be measured as such as possible.
While waiting for December 18, the date of the World Cup final, supporters of the country still in the running will try to endorse the advice given by doctors, even if it is not certain that they will succeed.
Dr. Samuel Ogbondeminu is Deputy Director of Sports Medicine Department with Nigeria's Ministry of Youth and Sports. He discusses why people with certain health conditions should be mindful of their emotions during sports competition like the World Cup.
Dopamine is a precursor of adrenaline, and mainly they are both produced from the adrenal glands, which is a small bean-shaped organ located over the kidney. But as well, dopamine is also produced along our digestive tract and in the midbrain, the hypothalamus. Find out that dopamine is responsible for the feeling of satisfaction you get, the feeling of pleasure and motivation, whereas adrenaline comes up when there's a kind of a situation where you need to fight or flight, when you have high level of dopamine in the body. One, well, it's helped you to be able to increase your ability to learn, which we might say it's good, but it can also cause sleep deprivation. It can increase your libido, the sex drive. So when adrenaline is released, that prepare you to fight, the blood are diverted to the muscles, getting them ready. Glucose level to the muscles are increased. You find out that the breathing can become shallow. The surge of adrenaline, when it becomes repetitive, it is known to damage the blood vessels because of the increased heart rate that it causes. It can lead to arrhythmia. The multiplier effect of some of these things, it's sudden cardiac arrest, stroke in an individual. Adrenaline is not as if it takes pains away. It makes you to momentarily forget that something is a kind of a danger. Sport fans, when the adrenaline surge is high, you find out that some of them, it can lead some of them into unnecessary disturbances that we see in some games. Because you see some people, you already have a background health condition. It's not advisable that you want to go to, because the kind of surge of adrenaline, the power that comes in that gets you to hyperventilate, find out that because of attachment to a game, the surge of adrenaline can lead some people to have sudden cardiac arrest. And that's why you find out that in some stadium, you find out that there are places that you have AED.
Aid groups say measles and cholera outbreaks at Kenya's congested Dadaab refugee camp have killed at least 5 people and sickened more than 400. The outbreaks come as thousands of Somalis have been arriving at the camp this year to escape record drought back home, stretching camp resources. Juma Majonga reports from Dadaab refugee camp in northeast Kenya.
Somali refugee Shamsa Aden is grateful her son Abdullahi is alive. But their story is one of survival and death. She was left disabled after being shot 9 times in 2003 by Al-Shabaab militants who in May this year killed her husband with a grenade. Somalia's record drought starved her 2-year-old daughter to death in October, so she fled to Kenya's Dadaab refugee camp. Then, a cholera and measles outbreak killed her 4-year-old daughter in November, and cholera sickened Abdullahi, who is still recovering.
It makes me have painful flashbacks. I feel bad about my husband being killed. I feel bad about the death of my children. I'm not able to talk about them.
Adan is one of more than 80,000 Somalis the UN says have fled to Kenya's overcrowded Dadaab camp to escape drought, only to face disease. In nearby Hagadera, the International Rescue Committee's health center alone has treated close to 300 cholera cases since the October outbreak.
Because of the short rains that we experienced recently and compounding with the current outbreak, the cases might really go high.
Most of the patients are children, like Somali refugee Ada Abdikadir's 3-year-old son.
I thought my child was going to die, but I thank God he is alive. He has been given medication to help him recover.
While VOA was filming at the health center, another patient, a middle-aged policeman attached to an aid agency, died from the waterborne disease. Compounding the cholera is an outbreak in the camp of measles, a childhood virus spread by sneezing and coughing. With thousands more Somali refugees expected to flee drought, aid groups say outbreaks of infectious diseases like cholera and measles could strain the camp's healthcare.
In a context where there is overcrowding in the space available, because if we are not allowed to do proper planning, proper site planning, decongest the camps, that means people are on top of each other and this can spread like wildfire. So that risk is there. And the only way to mitigate it is more attention.
Medics note children malnourished by drought-induced hunger are more vulnerable to disease. Meanwhile, Kenya's government and aid groups say they are mobilizing resources to try tackle the twin outbreaks.
Uganda has received a shipment of Ebola vaccine candidates to be used in a clinical trial. An outbreak of the viral disease has infected 142 people and killed at least 56, according to official data. Uganda has discharged the last Ebola patient from the hospital, raising hopes for the end of the outbreak of the deadly hemorrhagic fever declared on September 20th. There are currently no licensed vaccines for the Sudan strain of the virus that has caused the infections in Uganda. Existing vaccines combat the more common Zaire strain, which has been found in outbreaks in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. The WHO planned to send 3 vaccine candidates to Uganda to be used in a trial, one by the University of Oxford and Serum Institute of India, another by the Sabin Vaccine Institute, and a third by Merck. The trial is to determine whether any or all of the 3 are effective in combating the Sudan strain. The 1,200 doses received by Uganda are from the Sabin Vaccine Institute. Now, a growing fitness trend in Zimbabwe is clashing with a lack of facilities in townships, prompting some to exercise to the space and solitude of cemeteries. David Doyle has more.
It's early morning at a cemetery in Harare, and the silence is being broken by a fitness class. Having been cooped up inside during the global health crisis, many Zimbabweans have become more health conscious. But townships like this one, Warren Park, have few facilities, and residents have been forced to improvise. Training instructor Ticheona Macheka says a graveyard gives them room to exercise.
Maybe if we go and train at home, I will make noise for the other neighbors. So we decided here because many people say at graveyard space there is a space, a lot of space there and peace. So we decided to come here.
The Warren Hills Cemetery is a popular location, and for many residents like social worker Agnes Tugunde, the classes have become a part of their daily routine.
I realized I was gaining too much weight. I was overweight. I can say I was obese. So I was like to myself, I need to do something about it. I need to burn some calories and have a normal body.
However, for some, lycra-clad aerobics near the last resting place of loved ones might seem distasteful. For others, a bit spooky. 19-year-old Leslie Murabuko says the graveyard makes some feel uncomfortable.
But I see nothing wrong about coming here. Our rural folk are always superstitious, but we are not afraid.
For the health-conscious residents of Warren Park, the cemetery is a smart solution to the lack of facilities. The classes also make it possible to fit exercise into packed schedules, whilst getting a chance to socialise. As one group session winds up, mourners start to arrive. Music is switched off, joggers run their last laps, and the cemetery returns to its daily calm.
That's our show for today. For more health news, wellness tips, and medical breakthroughs, stay connected to Voice of America at voaafrica.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Linor Mudu. Until next time, stay well and strive to make every day a healthy day.